Do you believe that the life you are experiencing is a game? James Carse states that there are at least two types of games in this world: finite games and infinite games. Most people are toiling in finite games, with only a very small fraction playing infinite games. So, what exactly are finite and infinite games? Today, we will explore this topic through the book, loosely translated as Finite and Infinite Games, by the American philosopher and religious scholar James Carse, author of the renowned book Out of Control. Carse once remarked that this book changed his perspective on life, the universe, and everything else. The book itself isn't too long, but reading and understanding it is far from easy. The author uses a lot of abstract expressions. The writing style is deeply philosophical, requiring us to ponder and analyze each layer of meaning to grasp the profound implications hidden within every word. I've read it several times and still feel there are parts I haven't fully grasped. The magical thing is that when I reflect, ideas from this book often surface in my mind, making me wonder if I'm currently playing a finite or an infinite game. The author of this book doesn't construct a system with rigorous arguments to give you a specific answer. Rather, these are insights, a stream of thought from a higher, broader perspective that can stimulate your thinking, prompting you to re-examine your lifestyle and values. Ultimately, you will find your own answer. Are you living in a finite or an infinite game, and which game do you choose to play? This is precisely why I want to share this book with you. A book, no matter how much you understand, be it just a part, a chapter, or even a single sentence, if it can bring a lasting impact, is undoubtedly worth reading. This book can inspire you towards a completely new attitude towards life, as well as a new understanding of life's meaning. Purpose of playing: winning or prolonging forever. What is a finite game? All finite games aim to win, meaning you ultimately need to achieve a specific outcome or title. Finite games have a clear endpoint. They conclude when the recognition of an audience is achieved. Conversely, infinite games have no fixed destination. Their goal is not to win, but to prolong the game indefinitely. In this game, continuous progress and new experiences are the core meaning. Instead of focusing on an endpoint, players enjoy every step, constantly exploring and creating a new life. The saying, "life is for experiences," has become popular in recent years, with many using it as a way to heal their souls amid life's difficulties. At first glance, such words seem to lighten life's burden, but why do people still feel pain, still endlessly search for something to achieve? The core reason lies in the fact that we are still living only in finite games. We don't truly live according to what we understand. This very discrepancy between perception and action has become the source of our greatest suffering. We crave to reach the destination of freedom, yet in reality, we trap ourselves in a continuous series of finite games, moving from one to the next, forgetting that beyond these contests, an infinite game also exists. At the end of the year, the thought of, "what have I accomplished this past year?" often haunts many, creating anxiety, frustration, and regret. Why? Because people often see this as the final whistle of a round, a year closing, yet with so many unfinished, unachieved aspirations. Then we console ourselves: "there's still time. Next year I'll try harder to achieve it." This loop somewhat dissipates our current anxieties, but also traps us in an endless cycle of goals. Hoping, striving to achieve, then hoping and striving again. It's noteworthy that in a finite game, death is considered failure. Because death is the end, players often wish to live longer, and almost everyone fears death. In essence, the action of players in finite games is an attempt to maintain immortality by hoping their name will be remembered, that their achievements will endure, that they will amass wealth and power to leave for their descendants, and so on. However, according to the author, maintaining immortality is a state where we forget that we have forgotten, meaning we forget that we voluntarily chose to participate in finite games. If we are playing a finite game, how can we achieve immortality? This is the ultimate contradiction of the finite game, constantly striving for immortality within a boundary that can never be reached. This leads finite players to an absurd tragedy, living a life that cannot truly be lived. What does this mean? Simply put, it means we often cannot enjoy life because we are constantly worried about our survival. We want more time to live longer, yet we lose real life in the process. Another reason why finite players feel pain is that once victory and titles are won, the game ends. The player exits the game, but this exit is not a lasting satisfaction. It's like living as if already dead, or a state of dying before truly passing away. Because, though they continue to live and breathe, the entire meaning of their life has completely ended within that game. For example, an athlete competes in sports with the goal of winning a gold medal at the Olympics. This person trains daily, sacrificing time and energy, all for that ultimate prize. When the gold medal is won, the game ends. However, after this goal is met, they fall into a state of emptiness because there is no longer a goal to strive for. Or, a person sets a goal to earn 10 billion VND in 5 years. They throw themselves into work, investing all their energy into every business strategy, and then, finally, they achieve their goal. Once they have 10 billion, the game ends. At this point, they realize they don't feel truly fulfilled. Instead, there's a sense of quietude after the achievement. If they are still capable of playing, they will enter a new finite game, continuing to pursue new goals. Why? Because they must pursue immortality by constantly proving themselves winners, repeating this performance over and over. That's why those who win famous awards and achieve great wealth are rarely content with their current titles and are willing to stop. Money, glory, praise will never be enough. They must protect their titles by participating in new games. Therefore, finite games can be played many times, repeatedly, and in this loop, as long as victory and results are the goals, one can never escape the tragedy of being confined to a repeating absurdity. Conversely, an infinite game cannot be repeated because there is no endpoint. Those who participate in an infinite game experience it only once, so they give their all and can make the game enjoyable and meaningful for themselves. Are you passive or active in playing the game? Every person, upon birth, becomes a player in a finite game with pre-existing rules. These rules are not set by us, but are the achievements of winners from previous generations, even many generations ago. One could say we are forced to participate, but at the same time, it's as if we actively step in to join this competitive game. Passive participation occurs when we are born without a choice. We cannot decide which family, social circumstance, or country we are born into. From birth, we are guided to become a player suitable for the social game, trained into molds to turn us into standard players. On the other hand, active participation in the game is more philosophical and profound. There's a view that before birth, we ourselves chose the family we would be born into, reviewed the script of our life, and decided to embark on a journey with karmic challenges. This can be understood through the saying, every person is born with their own karma. Furthermore, when we gain awareness and the opportunity to make choices, the act of participating in a finite game becomes the result of our active choice. We choose our careers, shape the person we want to become, and decide how we will participate in the game. When engaging in a finite game, players must always be qualified and granted permission. For example, when you decide to become a doctor, you actively choose to enter the finite game of the medical profession. You understand that this role requires specific rules, responsibilities, and conditions: what major to study, what exams to pass, what degrees to obtain, and so on. Actively entering the game is not just accepting the rules, but also committing to fulfilling your role well in that game, seeing who is better, who can maintain their player status longer. However, infinite players are the opposite. They don't need anyone's permission, nor do they seek a qualification. They can freely participate. In summary, why understand this? We need to understand that whether we are passively or actively participating in a finite game, we always have another choice. Kevin Kelly, who introduced this book, once said, "The difference between the two types of games helped me clear up any hesitation about what to do next." You see, that means when you no longer hesitate about the next step, you can step into the infinite game. For a simple example, washing dishes can also become an infinite game. It's not about washing endlessly, but if you think, I must wash dishes quickly so I can watch TV, that's a finite game. But if you think, washing dishes is fun, I am enjoying the act of washing dishes, then that is an infinite game. So the problem may not lie in the event itself, but in how we use our psychology to participate in the game and what role we assume in it. Kevin Kelly says, always choose the infinite game. It's that simple. Are you a winner or a loser? In the book, the author emphasizes that in a finite game, there are always winners and losers. Finite games have clear boundaries and require the presence of an audience. These boundaries are the rules, systems, and standards set by previous generations of winners, while the audience comprises the majority who have lost the game. Because they lost, they are forced to live within the framework of rules established by the winners, accepting existence within those boundaries. But why do winners need rules and an audience? This is not difficult to explain. Rules are tools that generations of winners use to consolidate the titles and status their ancestors achieved. This stems from the egoistic nature inherent in human genes, the desire to protect and maintain the power and reputation of their lineage through many generations. Rules are established to ensure that the successors of the winners can continue to maintain their dominant position. And what about the audience? They are an indispensable group for the winners. Without an audience, titles and victories would carry no meaning. Ask yourself, if you achieve an excellent KPI but have no audience, no one to acknowledge it, then winning is no different from losing. There's a book that discusses whether to stop operating universities. Many oppose this idea because they believe titles like professor, dean, department head, etc. are very important. If universities cease to exist, these titles would lose their meaning. This is precisely them participating in a finite game. Finite game players always want to maintain the recognition of their titles. These titles bring power and wealth, but crucially, that power and wealth must be displayed before an audience. Thus, to reinforce the importance of their titles, they will encourage the audience to participate in this endless competition. The more people compete, the more valuable the title becomes. And from there, the winners not only protect, but also elevate their status and power in the eyes of society. Conversely, infinite players do not live for this. They never want to be the winner. They do not seek immortality or the preservation of titles, but simply face the game as ordinary individuals. In an infinite game, everyone is their own genius, and there is no concept of a winner or a loser. Because in an infinite game, there are no specific rules, only perspectives exist. Each person has their own perspective, but no one knows how long or how grand that perspective will be. In an infinite game, we are all masters of our own lives and are not bound by any rules. What we do is our own creation, neither repeating the past nor copying models for the future. For example, the paintings of B. Castle, no one ever created them in the past, and no one can copy them in the future. Or the works of Léazide did not suddenly appear in the past, and no one can dim their light in the future. Moreover, these paintings and works endure stably across various spaces and times, constantly evolving, changing, and progressing. During the play of an infinite game, finite games may emerge. For example, even Leonardo da Vinci opened art studios to earn money, or Confucius sought official positions. However, they did not become engrossed in finite games. If asked to paint, they would paint. If not asked, they would not paint. If asked to design military fortresses, they could do it, but they could also study the tongue of a woodpecker. They lived in complete freedom. This is the attitude of infinite players. They are not interested in the rules and titles of finite games. So, to the perennial question of whether we are winners or losers across many lifetimes, is that still too important? Do we need an audience to continue doing something? Do you go to university to truly expand your knowledge, or just to get a good degree and find a prestigious job in society? Do you work out of passion and the value the work brings, or for the goal of making money and earning respect from many people? Do you create a YouTube channel because you want to share what you love, or just to become famous? Do you love someone for who they are, or because you crave recognition and hope for lifelong affection from them? Do you post a photo for pure joy, or in hopes of getting likes? Do you listen to high-frequency sounds, meditate, or chant out of deep spiritual connection, or to attract prosperity, health, and wealth? Do you cultivate yourself for the journey back to your true self, or to ultimately reach nirvana? These questions are not meant to judge, but to make you look deeply into your purpose for participating in the game. Do the things you do come from your true self, from joy, from creativity, and the values you cherish? Or are they merely efforts to pursue victory, to gain the gaze and recognition of an audience? Once you carry the motivation to reach a specific goal and desire an audience to watch your arena, then whatever you do, you are still choosing to play finite games. Do you have power or strength? A characteristic of finite players is that they will have power. For example, upon becoming a lecturer, department head, or boss, you have all the rights and privileges associated with those titles. However, it's important to note that power only comes to those players who win. It is scarce. Power is only distributed to winners through competition, overcoming, or coercing many others. Power is not only limited in quantity, but also in degree. The degree of power of finite players is always limited by laws or the rules of the game. Within these limits, they will have a certain freedom. However, for those with no power or little power, the only choice is to comply with the rules. Therefore, their freedom is even more restricted. Conversely, infinite games have no power, but players have something else: strength. This strength is not limited by anything. They don't need to compete with others, don't need to vie for achievements or titles, yet they possess strength. Because this strength is freedom, even within limits. For example, Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning was completely confined in a concentration camp, yet he still had freedom. That freedom was the strength in his life. The strength gained here is not formed through competition and coercion of others. It is, in fact, an inner strength, a strength that creates space for others, allowing everyone the ability to do what they want, rather than forcing anyone to follow their will. Power in finite games can achieve societal recognition and the freedom to do many things according to one's desires, but that power, no matter how great, is always bound by rules and competition. Crucially, it is always limited to a select few. But strength is different. Anyone participating in an infinite game can possess strength. This is one of the biggest differences between the two games. Do you live by a script or create your own legend? Each person, from the moment they are born, is a blend of finite and infinite games. From the time you enter the world, you can choose between these two types of games. Therefore, within us, there always exists a conflict between scriptedness and legend. Those who participate in finite games are essentially living a life that plays out according to a script like a play with a beginning, middle, and end. Infinite players, however, do not live by any script. Have you ever thought of taking a spontaneous trip, just deciding to go? That is the essence of legend. But at the same time, you also need to follow a plan. Take university exams, graduate, get married, buy a house with a mortgage, and so on. That's a finite game script. Finite games also have a legendary quality, but it's only temporary. Every participant wants to achieve the best results, creating their life's legend. Everyone wants to become talented, to understand everything so they can predict every move in the game. They try to eliminate uncertainties when playing, pursuing stability and security for themselves. Actions that are repetitive, mirroring the past, are also following a script. Why do people often unconsciously act according to a script? It's because when we are born into a society that constantly craves immortality, the formation of society itself is a finite game. Society always wants to create countless conformists, people who imitate those who came before. Society seeks permanence and immutability, wanting to create winners to be worshipped in temples, for generations to be an audience to emulate. Society dislikes disruption. It dislikes you creating uncertainties. So, what creates disruption and legend? That is art and creativity. One way for society to maintain success in this game is to grant artists a position, an investment price, enhancing the value of consumer art. Clearly, major art collections and leading museums worldwide come from the wealthy or governments. For example, all major museums in New York are associated with the names of wealthy families like Carnegie, Frick, Rockefeller, etc. But these museums were not created to protect art from public destruction, but to prevent the public from accessing art. Does this give you goosebumps? We are living in a society where we are prevented from interacting with art, when in fact, anyone can be an artist of their own. We once carried pure creativity, once adorned life with the colors of nature, once felt beauty from light, from shadow, from breath, from the earth and sky. But over time, we gradually forgot. Instead of painting life with free colors, we chose the gray tones of office buildings. Instead of admiring naive drawings like when we were children, we hung diplomas and medals on the walls, as if to encapsulate and define success through finite victories. We once created, once brought forth paintings, poems, heartfelt handwritten notes, or clumsy but loving handmade crafts. Yet, when we began to ask, but how much can these sell for? When their value was measured by profit, that was when the artist within us gave way to the capitalist. Creativity, which was meant to free the bound soul, is now bound by titles and numbers. Remember that creativity is not just for achieving tangible accomplishments, but also for living true to your own pure, free nature. You don't need to become a recognized genius or a successful person in some field to find the meaning of creativity. You are your own genius. That is enough. Sometimes, just creating something for no other purpose than to enjoy the joy, passion, and perseverance within you, you have awakened the most innocent part of yourself. Life, after all, is not a finite commercial product, but an infinite work of art. You are the only one with the right to paint it, not for the gaze of others, not for societal recognition, but simply because you want to live a vibrant, colorful life. So never forget that the artist within you always exists. You just need to let it speak. Finite players are truly miserable because they are all haunted by the past. If you win an award, you feel you need to win again. You fear losing what you have, always paying attention to the audience's recognition and evaluation of what you do. Therefore, you live under immense pressure. When Einstein won the Nobel Prize and was revered, people advised him to retire, to stop researching, because failure would ruin his reputation. But Einstein didn't care about fame. He continued to explore, continued to play his own infinite game. Thus, infinite players can always allow the past to be the past, while finite players always dwell on the past, wishing the past wasn't the past. If you constantly strive to create success to reach a better state than what you did before, the truth is, the more you want to succeed, the more you fail. Be like Nietzsche, allow yourself the ability to forget what happened in the past, as it is no longer important because it is past. And every day, we live with new possibilities. This is not a denial or escape from the past, but a recreation of the past through our own creativity. Know that the audience has forgotten us, and you just need to remember that you have the freedom to play the game. You can quit your job, you can travel immediately, you can become a poet, a writer, and so on. You have the right to choose your game, and you also have the right not to participate in any game. This is your freedom to choose your game, as long as you are not driven by any specific purpose. Once again, I reiterate this statement: you need to believe that you are your own genius. There is no formula for nurturing genius. A child cannot automatically become a genius. Genius comes from an authentic connection. Only when you act from your talent and your passion, responding to it with your whole heart, consistently and creatively, does that truly become an authentic connection. Authentic connection is the opposite of being driven. When you are driven to a place you have predicted and prepared for, that is being driven in action staged on a theater. Authentic connection is completely different. It brings a sense of surprise, unexpectedness, and immersion. Perhaps in this moment, I am sharing with complete focus, and you are listening with complete attention. That, too, is an authentic connection. Why is it so difficult for us to focus and achieve this authentic connection? Because when playing finite games, we spend our time worrying and consuming it, leaving no time, so everything we do becomes a means to achieve a desired present in order to combat an unpredictable future. Reflect on this statement. It is very important. The purpose of work is not to feed your family, earn a lot of money, or pass the time, but to create new possibilities. For finite players, freedom is a variable of time. We need time to be free. But for infinite players, time is a variable of freedom. We are free to own our time. When you become an infinite player, you will utilize every moment to play many different finite games, but you don't need a script, and you are not a serious actor in your story, identifying yourself with the role, but rather a joyful, creative artist. An infinite player can become an audience member for any game, but when they watch, they understand that they are merely observing and not getting deeply caught up in it. With such a game, it will never end. There's a final sentence in the book that left a lot of deep reflection. There is only one infinite game in this world. If finite games are inherently unreal, then could it be that by being engrossed in them, you are merely living in a self-created illusion? My answer to this question, if I were to give one, would certainly not be perfect, and it might not even suit you. I hope you can find your own answer to what the infinite game truly is. Don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments after listening to this complex and profound book. Because reading is not just about listening, but also about challenging yourself to step out of your comfort zone. Only when we reach the boundaries of knowledge can we see that there are other ways of looking at the world, enabling us to live with more conscious and powerful choices. Thank you for listening. If you find this useful, please share it with those who might need it. Once again, thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next videos.